Hi, this is Asim.
This is Sujoy.
This is Amrita.
And you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast about the three main Khans of the Hindi film industry.
Amir,
Salman,
And Shahrukh.
Hi, you're listening to Khandaan, a Bollywood podcast regular feed. Thank you so much for your support over the years. We now have a Patreon channel with bonus content and exclusive merch for those of you who would like to support us. Every dollar goes towards creating more and better content. Visit us at patreon.com/Khandaan podcast.
Hi and welcome to a new episode of Khandaan Podcast. My name is Asim Bernie and I'm joined with my lovely co-host Amrita and Sujoy. Hello.
hello, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Did I mess up the flow?
I was waiting for Sujoy to say something because it's usually that way. Like, Asim says hi, then Sujoy says hi, then I say hi. And Sujoy just blanked out. And so I was just like, it's Sujoy's fault, is basically what I'm saying.
I happily accept it.
Talking about Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman this episode.
Asim has hit the wall. It is just like,
No effort. Sorry about that. I should put in more effort. No, I think. The first thought I had about Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman is that it's we kind of skipped this one, right? Like, because we did the debuts of the Khans, we obviously went with Deewana first, and we never ever did Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman, which is actually Shah Rukh's debut, right? As a main hero, and it's just funny that after so many years of doing Khandaan podcast, we're now only getting back to this movie. Do you remember Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman when it came out? Like, do you remember watch? Did you guys watch it in theaters or No. This is still VHS era.
Yeah, this is still VHS era. I think the first Hindi movie that I watched in the theater was Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, which came out in 1994. I want to say. Up until then, you really didn't go to the theater to watch Hindi movies.
Yeah.
It was just sort of like a hangover from the 80s where everybody just switched to VHS because it was safer, less expensive, etc. Blah, blah, blah. And then Hum Aapke Hain Kaun just brought out the revolution. So this movie came out in 92, 93?
92.
Yeah. So this was right before the Hum Aapke Hain Kaun revolution. So I don't think I watched it in the theater.
What was your first Hindi movie at the cinema, Asim? Because I'm going to reveal next, and I will age myself.
I think I know my parents used to take me earlier to cinema, but I have no memory of it. The one that I have a vivid memory of is Amitabh Akela.
Okay.
Again, that is not a movie that I would take a kid to, but then Indian and Desi parents, not just Indians, but Desi parents in general, will take their kids to the weirdest freaking movies.
So I was raised in Belgium, so we used to live at the seaside, which is near the French border. And at that time, there was only one theater in all of Belgium that used to show Bollywoods on one Friday at 8 o'clock. So
wow.
In Brussels.
It's like our Chitrahar.
Yeah. So we used to have to drive 2 hours to get to that theater, watch the movie of 3 hours long, and then drive back. So this is like a 7-8 hour trip, right? So
it's like going to Disneyland, right?
Yeah. So, and all across, people from Antwerp, from the French side, everybody would just show up. The theater was packed, packed to the brim. and people would just show up late because obviously they were coming with traffic. Even then,
Yeah.
at that time, it was crazy. So you would come in. Sometimes people would come in just before the interval point, right? I have real memories of all of this happening.
It reminds me of East is East, when the entire family goes from Bradford to Manchester just to watch Pakiza, and then the uncle knows the theater owner is like Chaudhary ka chand lagao.
yeah,
Middle
yeah.
of the movie, Pakiza changes to Chaudhary ka chand.
Yeah. And because my dad knew everybody, like everybody knew Mr. Bernie, all of Belgium knew him, so he got tickets for us. He knew how much big of a Amitabh fan I was, so we went, and you just went with that is the only knowledge you have. You have no further news except that it's an Amitabh movie. So. And it was a very brutal and violent movie, I remember. Like, it's really, really bad. But yeah, you just watch what was available. So that's my movie. What about you, Sujay? What are you reviewing?
My first movie, Hindi movie at the cinema, is a movie that nobody probably remembers. It's a movie called Jeete Hai Shaan Se. It has Mithun, it has
Mithun,
Govinda, it has Sanjay Dutt. It had a very famous song by Anu Malik back in the day. This was an 80s movie released in 1987. It had a song called Julie Julie, Johnny Ka Dil
Yeah.
Pe Aaya Julie. That song, it is an epic movie because there is a scene where the film star Mithun is being invited into this mohalla as a chief guest to a party, and Mithun is also the actor in this movie. So there are two Mithuns, one is the real one, and then it was mind-blowing to see that double role. But also, like, this was my very first time at the cinema, and to see Mithun Chakravarti expand from a TV screen to this giant, like, larger than life thing, it was mind-blowing to my little head. So yeah.
So that was 88 that you saw that
Yeah.
movie. Akela
Yeah.
came out in 91,
Yeah.
and then 94 for you. So
I mean, I'd been to the movies before. I just had like that. That was just like the first Hindi movie that I watched in '94.
what was the first movie? Like, let's go into it. Like, what do you?
The very first movie, I'm sure my mom used to take me as a baby,
Yeah.
but I don't remember any of those. The first movie that I remember watching was Nayagan, which came out, I think, in 87, I want to say, 86, 87, something like that. And it was playing at the Indian Film Festival, which used to be held right in our backyard. So mom was like a huge Kamala Hassan fan, and she was like, well, we need to go watch that. So it was just me and my mom, and we went and we watched it together. And it was in Tamil, which is a language I sort of understand, but I'm not fluent by any means. And I was tiny, but I loved it. And I think it's also the reason why I'll watch movies without subtitles, why I'll watch movies in different languages, and like it's not like off-putting to me in the least to watch something that I don't understand, because cinema, like that movie taught me that cinema has a language of its own, and you can really understand what it is as long as you can follow the storytelling, So yeah, Mani Ratnam and Kamala Hassan, that was my introduction to cinema on the big screen.
Sujoy, that movie, Mithun movie, was your first movie, or
Yeah,
did
first
you go?
movie ever.
Yeah,
But
probably, right?
my mom was pregnant when she went to watch Sahib, like the Bengali version of Sahib, not the Anil Kapoor one, but the Taposh Pal one. So does that count?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, such a lovely story. Hassan just kills it like that.
Mine was Gremlins 2. That is the first movie I ever watched in cinema.
Nice.
We used to go to the cinema in Ostend, which is like a coastal town not too far from where I grew, and they used to have these on the 4th of July. They used to do for 50 Belgian francs back in the day. You could just watch as many movies as you wanted because it was 4th of July, So Gremlins was the one that I watched. And
wait,
Gremlins,
what's the significance of 4th of July in Belgium?
American Independence Day.
But what does that have to do with Belgium?
American movies, I don't know. It's like a thing that they used to do. Celebrate America,
Capitalism.
watch free movies, I think that's
Okay.
Hollywood के पास पैसा जा रहा है. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, and I remember because Gremlins 2 had this amazing meta moment. Have you guys seen that movie?
No.
I would. No, I think the first one is the only one that I've seen.
So it's so the gremlins go wild, right? There's like tons of different gremlins. The first one just had one type of gremlin, and then they got evil. But this had like a mohawk gremlin and a woman gremlin. Like they had scientific nerdy gremlin, and the gremlins go so wild that like in a meta moment they take over the cinema, and then the reel burns, like and the movie stops,
Mhm.
and then you're like. And then the movie continues, but it's like you're watching a movie theater, and like people are like, "What's going on?" And you see the gremlins behind like the projector, like like they're burning and they're doing this. And then Hulk Hogan stands up and like starts screaming at the gremlins to act right, and it blew my mind. Like as a kid, first Gremlins, first movie, and then Hulk Hogan at that time. If that was not the perfect reason to fall in love with movies, then I don't know what else would have been.
Like the first movie you watched, they literally tore out of the fourth wall.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I like Janeman so much. Meta moments.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I was 11, right? And it was like the first time I went with some friends. So it was the first time without parents and things like that. That's crazy, man. I would never let my 11-year daughter go to like Austin for the whole day, watch movies. Like it's crazy. Wow, the privilege of being a boy, man. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Yeah, it hits you when you think about it. Yeah, so that was my first one. Yeah, let's go back to Raju.
Yeah, gentlemen. Let's go back to Darjeeling.
Yeah, is this your life story, Sujoy?
मुझे बम्बई जाना है, बड़ा इंजीनियर बनना है.
I thought of you. Although you're not in Darjeeling, but I was like, yeah, little boy
I want
with
to
big
work in
dreams.
Chabriya's firm.
You end up in London.
Yeah. I guess the aspiration and the ambition of leaving the small town to become rich and like, move up other social ladder, I guess that definitely I relate to. I don't know why we never get a mention of Raj's parents here, like his family or anything. He just goes to the temple and then he moves to Bombay. But
Yeah, my line was an orphan Nepali boy with big dreams ditches his friends because they have no rhythm. That's what I wrote.
Yeah, oh my god, his dude group in Darjeeling are not dancing at all. Like they just picked anybody who was at the temple and like
I'd forgotten about that song completely. Like I did not remember
Dil Hai
that
Mera
song at
Deewana.
all. And then like the moment it started playing, I was just like, I know the song. Like I know the words to this song. It's like I don't know. There's just like these are the kind of films that don't get made anymore. Like they would never be made. Like there's
Yes.
just no way in hell. They'd be trying to sex it up. They'd be trying to make it more gritty. They'd be trying to do like 50 million things with this. And even the Bombay that it shows in this film, like the chawl that he ends up at, and like the way that they all behave, and they talk about the way they talk, the Hindi that they're speaking in this, or the Hindustani to be more exact, that they're speaking in this, when they refer to Shah Rukh's character, they're like, they call him Pardesi. When at the end he's going back, they're like, where is he going? And like one of the characters says, wo apni mulk ja raha hai. Like he's going back to Darjeeling. Like it's a very like old fashioned way of speech. That is just very charming to me. And also like the courtship between Shah Rukh and Juhi, which I need to talk about Juhi at length, but the courtship between Shah Rukh and Juhi, where like they're like fighting each other and like philosophically whatever, and then like he's hanging out outside her building, and he says, oh, actually I just wanted to come see you, and she's like, I wanted you to come see me, and like it's so cute.
So cute, huh? Yeah.
Oh my god. Like
I was watching their love story and I was like, this is the kind of love story my uncles and my aunties used to have. Like, this is their love story, right? That era. It's so cute. But I think what you're saying about this cannot be made, it's interesting because basically this movie could be a theater play, right?
It
This whole
is.
movie is basic. There's no reason for it in a way to be a movie. It can be a theater play, but they could make these kind of movies before, right? Like I was just thinking, like how this could not work. This could maybe, I don't know how people would even do this. Like the economics of it wouldn't work. The distribution of it wouldn't work. Like you yeah, there's just no way that you could even attract a Juhi Chawla to be in that kind of movie anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's just like
It is like it's interesting because it's obviously an Aziz Mirza movie, his first movie from moving from television to, like this is the next step in his career, moving from Nukkar to this, right? And it's kind of, you can see the resemblance
it's so
in
much
those.
Nukkar vibes. The
Yeah,
whole Basti is Nukkar,
yeah,
basically.
it is that. It's just the movification of that universe into this, and obviously there's Shahrukh now introduced as the hero, and obviously there is a whole story written everywhere and in many Lahre videos about how the infamous story of how Juhi did not want him to be, because she did not believe in this not so good looking, because she's just come off making movies with Amir Khan, and then this is the hero that is being introduced by Vivek Vaswani in this movie, and so all of that.
I was thinking of it because I'm going to maybe try to play the clip actually, because of it, but
I had just done Qayamat Se Qayamat Tak in a few other films, I think. And then I met Vivek Vaswani, who was the executive producer of Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman. And वो हमारे पास आए और कहने लगे कि ये फिल्म है और फिल्म के बारे में मुझे बहुत अच्छी बातें बताई हैं, अजीज जी डायरेक्ट करेंगे. I was like, okay, it sounds nice. So who's co-starring with me? There's a new boy and he's from television. तुमने फौजी तो देखी होगी, तो I'm like, फौजी नहीं देखी नहीं है.
इसका background educated नहीं है इतना. He's not
Shahrukh, I didn't have time for television. I was a busy artist even then. So मैंने नहीं देखी हुई थी, and they said no, but he's very good. He's a very good actor, and he's like Amir Khan. So I was like, yeah. Achha, if he's like that would be very nice, because I'd started off with Amir, so I thought ऐसे कुछ होंगे. मैं उनसे मिली नहीं थी, and I went to the sets to shoot for Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman. And वहाँ मैंने पहली बार शाहरुख को देखा, और मैंने क्या देखा? मैंने एक दुबला पतला सा लड़का देखा, ब्राउन कलर का, और उनके बाल लंबे लंबे से थे, कुछ आंखों तक आ रहे थे. मैंने बोला ये हीरो है और ये आमिर खान की तरह है. लाइक शाहरुख से तब तक बहुत देर हो चुकी थी, मैंने फिल्म साइन कर ली थी,
पैसे ले चुकी थी,
पैसे इतने कुछ नहीं रहे. But anyway, I was in the film. I'm just saying this in fun, but I was really like, Amir Khan, किस एंगल से आमिर खान लगते हैं? But
she always thought I was better.
No, but as I got to know him, actually he was very very nice. Now that you ask me, I remember हम लोग जब काम शुरू ही किया था, so though he was new to films, he was very confident, and he was not at all like a newcomer. He was more at home with the unit than I was, and I remember he came and chatted with me, or tried to be friendly, so that when we worked together there would be no awkwardness. It was really good company, because I used to laugh a lot at his jokes.
Like at that time, and I'm sure Amrita will balk at this idea, but Amir was a beautiful man, like seen as a beautiful boy,
yes,
right?
He is.
You know, like, and he was like the epitome of a beautiful man. And then Shahrukh is not, right? He is not like, and I was watching it and I was like, because I remember I wasn't immediately enamored by Shahrukh. Right.
Yeah.
It wasn't like the love I had for Salman. Like when I saw Salman, I was like, who is this? I didn't have this with Shahrukh, because I think, and I noticed this in this movie, he needed a bit of settle. Like life mein thoda settle hona mangta, like, and I think.
And he hadn't married by this movie. Like when this movie had come out, I think after this movie is when he got married to Gauri, and obviously with Yes Boss and everything, that was the time when he moved into Mannat just after Yes Boss.
Yeah.
So,
I was just going to say, he has that Ranveer Singh energy that just becomes annoying after a moment, that he doesn't calm down. So it takes me a while. But yeah, Amrita, what were you saying?
I think Shahrukh, like what you were saying is absolutely right. Like QSQT, when it came out, Amir and Juhi were like the poster people for the entire, not just the entire country, but I think for the diaspora as well. Like everybody was just like, who's good looking? Amir Khan. Who's good
Yeah.
looking? Juhi Chawla. Like, and Juhi is, of course, like a Miss India. She was
Mhm.
Miss India 1984 or something. So these two were just seen as the epitome of young love and young, youthful beauty and like all that kind of stuff, right? Shahrukh is a completely different thing. Like Shahrukh just always had that it factor. Like the moment you see him in Divana and he just like comes on top of that, motorbike, you can't get your eyes off him. There are all these stories of people who were like completely bored by Divana and they just wanted to leave the theater. And then like the song starts and everybody's just like, well, wait a minute, I just want to see what that guy's going to do for a minute. And then they just keep sitting there because like it's a Shahrukh show from then on. And it's the same thing in Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman, where I can see like it's such good casting to put Juhi with Shahrukh, because Juhi is just like a gentle summer breeze and she's just like very like, like shant, whereas Shahrukh is like hyper and he's just like all over the place. He's got that mullet and he's like jumping, he's like hamming it up. And it really helps him to have Juhi, and like the two of them together are just like, this is so meant to be.
Before Red Chilies, before everything, we've talked about this a few times, but like the Aziz Mirza, Juhi Chawla, Shahrukh thing started here, right?
Mhm.
And it went on for a long time until it eventually crashed and burned. But
After Fir Bhi Dil Hai
yeah,
Hindustani.
yeah, it's a sad story. I always get sad for them when I hear how the failure of that Dreams Unlimited, I think they were called, right? Yeah, how that failed. Yeah.
But
yeah, I
obviously
think-
they made Chalte
Oh,
Chalte after that, and that was a big hit.
yeah. I know also Shahrukh talks a lot about like he looks up to Michael J. Fox as an actor. And this movie really had that Secret of My Success, Bright Lights, Big City vibes to it too, right? Like
I have not seen
it just
Secret of
kinda
My
reminded
Success, by the way.
You should. It's
But
good. It's
for
good.
me, the reference when I heard about the story and I hadn't watched Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman, and yesterday was my first time watching the whole movie throughout. By the way, I've watched it in bits and bits on VHS
Oh,
and
wow.
stuff. But my instant connection was that this is a Shri 420 remake in a way. Because of Mur Mur Ke Na Did Dekh and Tu Mere Saath Chal and Amrita Singh versus who is the Nadira in Shri 420.
Yeah, but Amrita, is this a movie that you revisit a lot? Have you like? I feel people like it, but they don't love it as much as maybe Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na or even Yes Boss to a certain degree, which are kind of all in that same
Yeah.
sphere. But I don't think this movie has sustained the same amount of love. But it is like it is a lovely
Yeah.
movie. Like watching it, like I didn't have a bad time. Like it's a good time to watch this movie.
It is a
right?
time capsule.
It's a, yeah, it is. The Bombay that it captures, the India that it captures, the way that we used
Yeah.
to be,
And
30
also
years
the
ago. Like,
filmmaking of that era, right? Like because it's
Yes.
so so blatantly pseudo secular in all its characters from the Mohalla. It's like we have to have a Parsi, we have to have a Muslim guy, we have to have the Christian of the Mohalla, and everybody comes together for the Ganpati and everything else. And there is obviously Nana Patekar giving life lessons. Like Nana Patekar in today's era, that particular character would be a podcaster,
Like really like Nana Patekar shtick at that
Yeah.
time, right? Like just talking fast and like complaining about the world and
Giving
like
gyan,
giving like
his beer
harsh
biceps.
truths and stuff like that. Yeah.
But also, like, I love
Yeah.
that the camera loves him. Like the camera never cuts away. He's like given tu kar, and the camera follows him.
Yeah.
It was
the my favorite thing is like when they do the crowd work for Nana Patekar's bits, and sometimes the crowd is just enjoying the fact that they're standing next to Nana
Yeah.
Patekar, and they don't even they're clearly not paying any attention to what he's saying. They're just like looking at him and they're just like, "Wow, look at this man act! I love it." I love that I have a ringside view of this man acting. Like it's great. And Shahrukh and Nana, like they have like a really good chemistry too, right? Like it's not like yeah, I don't know. But it's fun.
Because
Oh,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying he wasn't a big star at that time, right? Nana Patekar, or am I like he was more
No.
like known for art movies, I guess.
I
Yeah,
think Prahar had
He
come
had
out.
done Parinda.
Parinda had come out and Prahar
Yeah.
had come out, and Prahar was big, like because of
Yeah. I've never seen that.
Oh, you should.
But we need to talk about Amrita Singh.
Yes. Sara Ali Khan ki maa.
But do you see, like, okay, I wasn't going to bring that up, but since you've mentioned her, do you see what I mean when I say that Sarah just doesn't have that it factor?
Yeah, exactly. Like it's
You
the
know?
same
Like
face,
face,
but
yeah.
the face isn't giving what we need, and here it is, like even with the simplest of the scenes, that she does not have the most well written scenes. She's literally the rich girl and like she wants her love, and it's very much Aina because here as well.
It is so, and which Aina came out next
Yeah.
year, so this is not
Yeah.
came out before Aina. But this, I was watching it and I was telling my wife about Aina. I was like, "Oh, we should
And she
watch
breaks an
Aina
Aina in this.
Yeah, she does. She goes full Aina. But I think it's also like that era where she was like just playing the scorned woman a lot,
Suryavanshi.
Aina, this Suryavanshi.
Oh, bless her.
But I think both, like, I get what you're saying, Amrita, but I think she just has more fire in her, like, Amrita Singh does. And I think that's what Sara Ali Khan is missing. Like she has energy, but she doesn't have like fire in her persona. And yeah, there's something missing. Maybe it's the character she's getting, but again, like what Sujoy is saying, this is also a nothing burger character that Amrita Singh gets, and she's delivering, right?
Yeah, I think so. I'm a huge fan of Amrita Singh, to be honest. Like I think she made some of the most interesting films, even while doing flower pot characters. Like her flower pot characters were like very different from most of the ones that you would see. And I think what sets Amrita apart, not just from her daughter, but also from her contemporaries, is that she's not afraid to be unlikable. She whether it's in this or in Suryavanshi, she's just like chewing through the scenery. She loves it. She's like, I'm just an evil bitch, and you will like it. She really sells it. She's just like, well, I'm just a woman who wants all these things, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get him. And she and Shahrukh are like, it's such a different energy from Shahrukh and Juhi. And Shahrukh does this really well, where like you can see him sort of like wide-eyed and sweet and like just a cutie pie with Juhi. And then the more time that he spends with Amrita, like he's just becoming like more and more worldly and a little less happy, towards the end, like you can really see that he's spending more time with Amrita and he's getting everything that he wants. But you can see that earlier innocence and happiness has completely vanished from his face. And it's such a subtle thing. And he does it really well.
Confused man though, Raju as a character, like he wants to bring he brings Amrita Singh to a dhaba, and he brings Juhi Chawla to the Taj. Like it's like, what are you doing? Like, bring people to the appropriate thing, and he seems like completely unaware of what he's
Yeah.
doing. And then, we need to talk about Raju as a character a little bit, right? Because he is not. It is kind of a shaded character in a way, right? Like it has good shades and bad shades, and he is ambitious and he wants, like, even to the point of being arrogant, where he gets checked by Juhi, right? Like, and then when he becomes a bit more worldly, the best part is when he's having chane with Juhi
By
Chawla, right?
bandstand.
Like that's the golden, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was lovely.
And then the moment he starts being a gentleman, he becomes, arrogant, and to the point where he kind of forgets where he kind of came from. And I think I think that's probably what appealed Shahrukh to this character too, right? Like, I'm sure that he just took on whatever roles he wanted to at that time because he wanted to be a big star. But there has to be something that also just appealed to him as a person. This is also his story, right? Like, as a boy coming out of the industry, like making a mark and then becoming literally the biggest star India has ever seen. Even more so than the clip of Yes Boss when Chand Tare everybody talks about. Like, this is probably what appealed to Shahrukh at that time, right? It's just it's not a standard role necessarily, or a hero role to take at that time. And I think that's what made Shahrukh so different, that he had kind of a different view of what kind of actor he wanted to be.
Also, like the hero roles that were happening at that time were all Anil Kapoor, Sunny Deol, Jackie Shroff kind of movies, and I don't think. I guess Shahrukh wanted to do action later, but this was I don't think he's able to make choices. Right, like he literally got introduced in this movie by Vivek Vaswani.
I mean, it's just the more you think about Shahrukh's career, the more you realize just how unique it was and how different it is from like everybody else, because even Amir and Salman, as industry kids, when they made their debuts and the first few movies that they signed, they did like very traditional leading men roles. And Shahrukh showed up and he's like, like doing all kinds of weird things for the first 5 or 6 movies that he does. But what that does is like it immediately differentiates him as an actor, and it makes sure that he's sticky for the audience, like people remember this guy. They're just like, oh yeah, he plays these like really violent characters or negative characters, or he's doing something different. And it's funny because it's like 30 years later and I still don't see young actors making those choices. Like they show up and they immediately just want to do what everyone else is doing, instead of just doing something different.
I have also another theory, by the way, that there were a lot of hero intro scenes that we remember, right? But with Shahrukh, the first 4 or 5 movies that he did, every time he got introduced, there was a song involved, right? With Deewana, it was Koi Na Koi Chahiye on the bike. With Kabhi Ha Kabhi Na, it's Deewana Dil Deewana on the bike again as he goes to the train station. And with this, it was Dil Hai Mera Deewana. Every time he's on a bike or a jeep or a van or whatever, and you don't get that with any other hero. Like the first time you see something introduced like that was Ajay Devgan in Phool Aur Kaante, but you can't remember what was his introduction scene in like Jan or Platform or whatever the other movies that came out after that. I think that helps. The songs definitely help in making the memory longer for people to remember. Yeah, this was the first time I saw Shahrukh on a car, and he was fabulous singing Vinod Rathore
on a car dangling for his life.
He didn't care.
Scaring the hell out of him. Amrita, you wanted to talk about Juhi Chawla a little bit?
Yes, I love her in this. She's like a daisy. Like I love her. I have like such a huge crush. Like this is who, like in our last episode, we were talking about Asin in Gajni and how that really didn't work for me. Like Juhi Chawla is the poster child for that kind of, good-hearted female lead.
The moral center of the movie.
Yes. That's who she is in this film. And she just knocks it out of the park. She looks beautiful. She's so soft spoken. She's one of the few people in this film that's actually dressed a little decently. Like Amrita Singh's wardrobe is
Yeah.
horrendous.
By the way,
But
Shahrukh's, all of that is like TikTok fits.
Yeah,
like
now.
everybody on TikTok is dressed the way Shahrukh is dressed.
I literally
Oh,
wrote that down. Like that whole
Pleated pants.
that whole aesthetic is back now, right?
Yeah, this
Oh,
is Daniel
God.
Simmons basically.
But Juhi is just like, I mean, she's so charming. And she's it's this thing that the great female leads of Bollywood all have in common, which is that obviously they inspire like fandom in men, but they also inspire fandom in women. Like women are also equally like attracted to them, and they find them, like gorgeous and sexy or whatever. And Juhi is such a good example of that. She's just an attractive person. Like, I don't know how else to put it. She just has that star quality to her.
And she's also a very complete character, right? She's sweet.
Yes.
She's in love. She also stands up for her beliefs twice, to Shahrukh and to Amrita Singh, right? And then to the point that she actually breaks up with Shahrukh's character,
Raju,
right? Because they don't align anymore. I think that was also very fresh. And then beside that, she's just very supportive, sweet, and just beautiful to look at. Like, she is so pretty in this movie.
Yeah.
It's insane. Especially because now the print is really nice. The one I was watching on Prime, at least, I'd never seen this movie in such a clear print. It's just beautiful, man. She looks great. And I think, because Shahrukh is so all over the place, like he's such a firebrand, she kind of settles him a little bit, and I think that's really what's needed in this movie.
I have to give props to the cinematographer of the movie, Binod Pradhan, who has by this time already shot Parinda with Vinod Chopra. That's his aesthetic, and it's quite inspired by the whole PC Sriram aesthetic of backlighting that we see a lot in Nayagan and all that. And she's just like, there is a wrapper of halo around all these beautiful people, like especially Juhi. So well lit and so nicely shot. I absolutely love her. Yeah.
God, remember the time when like movies were well lit? Like, oh my God.
Like even Vinod Pradhan also shot a movie called Narsimha, and even that is a very bargain bin Poundland kind of a movie that you don't watch. But even that movie is so really like pretty to look at. Urmila in that movie, and Ravi Behel of all people. But,
Jao tum jaane.
exactly. Yeah.
And also, Juhi gets to be sexy in the movie. Right?
We get the Mere Rang Mein.
It's like totally ripped off. Like the whole sequence is ripped off, but it's just funny because like instead, like I think like Mere Rang Mein has like, okay, like they still feel it's very conservative. Like these people are gonna bang.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And the lyrics are that. The lyrics are that.
that-
We're gonna bang, but in a very samskari way.
So that has been my question, my enduring question for 30 years. Like, quick poll. Do you guys think that they did the deed?
In the movie? What do you mean?
Obviously in the movie.
It's they have to though, right? Like, I mean, I think they have to, both with Amrita Singh and with Juhi Chawla. Like, it just does, like, okay, maybe this is my brain now, but I just cannot understand how there would not be banging involved, right?
Yeah.
Because the song is like very like, I'm gonna dress you up in like my fantasy, and then I'm gonna like, then we're gonna like make sweet love kind of a thing.
But she's also like, bhool kahi humse na ho jaye,
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, but yeah, it would make sense if they had, but also it would make sense if they didn't.
But again, like these are the questions we need to ask our puppos and khalas and mamus and stuff like that. Like, what were you guys banging or not? Like, what were you guys doing? Like just
holding hands on the seaside.
That's what bandstand people
imagine
do.
like The thing is, like this generation we're talking about, like the generation before us, compare that to the generation now. That's like 3 generations away, right? Like how much different is the Tinder grinder
Of dating
world
culture, yeah.
from this world, right? Like it's literally a culture. Like even we cannot understand it, right? Like what were these people doing? Because obviously people were having affairs and people were like getting pregnant and all, so all of the things that are happening were happening then too. But why is there like the cinematic portrayal of it so chaste, I don't know.
Censorship.
Just-
That's what I see. The CBFC.
That's what it is.
It's interesting though. Like as we said, like this is such a time capsule, and Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman does not stand out as much as Yes Boss or the later movies. Is because it's still coming out of its shell. It's the first of its, like the debut of its director. So he's also trying to find his foot, right? So and also like especially with Jatin Lalit as the music director, he's also the soundtrack feels like an amalgamation of many soundtracks that we've heard from elsewhere. Like so, there you get Juhi dressed almost like Ayesha Julka in Khiladi, the same frock and all that fashion. And Laveria is almost like Sheher Ki Pariyon, and then that particular banging song is also that Dekha Teri Masti Nigaahon Mein from from Khiladi. It's kind of like that. That's why it feels like it's a bit of a mixture of a movie.
Yeah. Did you guys watch Nukkad back in the day? I think maybe we should tell people what Nukkad was. Maybe they don't
I
even know what that
remember
was,
watching
right?
it, but I have no memory of it because it was like that and Hum Log and all of that. It just went past my like active brain cells, I suppose, like back then.
But it was a very long running, like these, I would say these sweet kind of stories situated in like a small
Mohalla,
kind of town or a village, mohalla, basti kind of situation. And there were a few of these. There was like Nukkad, there was also Wagle Ki Duniya. Remember that one?
And he is here as well, Mr. Wagle.
Who is
Anjan Srivastava.
Yeah. And there was these long-running series on ZTV, at least here in Belgium. I don't know how
this
you guys
was on National Network, Doordarshan.
Yeah, Doordarshan.
Right. And so they used to just run and like have these like moral tales in it and stuff like that. And they launched a lot of these actors that we then know either as supporting actors or Shahrukh is probably the only one that kind of got. Were there any others that kind of came out from it and became like big stars or?
All of them were there, right? Like Shahrukh, Rituraj, Anjan Srivastav, like all of these people were out of that particular milieu. Mukesh Khanna, like all of these people.
The whole cast of Mahabharata and Ramayana, like.
Yeah, I'm going through the Pawan Malhotra is in there.
Pankaj Kapoor.
Yeah.
And Pankaj Kapoor's ex-wife as well. What's her name? Neelima Azmi.
And I imagine also a lot of like behind the camera talent also kind of came through from that, right? Like filmmakers, writers, and things like that. So I don't think it's available anywhere streaming or anything. But that back in the 80s, late
YouTube.
80s, 90s.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. Yeah, and they were all like kind of like nice stories, right? Like, and even sometimes dealing with like
social issues,
tougher, social issues. So,
did you ever watch Bunyad?
The Pakistani drama?
No. There was a Doordarshan. Yeah, was it Dalit Tahir?
I believe so.
I can't. I can't. But it was like Lajuji and like it was like set during the partition, and it basically follows.
Yes. Oh yeah, no, yeah, I remember that one. That was a big hit.
It was a huge hit.
I didn't watch it.
Kanwaljit was
like one of the
Yeah.
And
it was directed by Ramesh Sippy.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. His wife was also like was starring opposite Kanwaljit. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but
I will remember in a bit. Hang on.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I remember that. That was a big one. Yeah. 110 episodes.
Yeah, it was huge. It was like a major thing. Like it just went on forever. But that was like the first Indian soap. Kiran Juneja, that's her name. It was like all of it. Like Asim said, they were obviously like made by the government. So they
Nation
had to
building.
have, yes, nation building and like morals and like, which back then it was quite different from what it is today. So back
And then
Well,
Mahesh
then,
Bhatt,
I want to
Mahesh
ask
Bhatt
you
came
this.
and made Swabhiman and just shook it all up.
yeah.
But I want to ask you this though: did this India ever exist, or is it just like an idea
No,
perpetuated
it
through
did.
this media? Did this ever exist or not?
I remember it existing. Like I
Yeah.
remember it being like, like people could actually celebrate each other and not like constantly want to like murder each other. People weren't constantly talking about like, oh, he's a Muslim, he's a Christian, how dare he do this, how dare he do that. Like none of that shit. People will get intermarried and like it will be fine. Like it definitely existed and for like a while, like but it was probably more urban, I want to say, than like
Yeah.
maybe like small towns,
For me,
maybe
this
like
was
maybe.
an India that exists in like in a far, far away distant land. For me, like that was not the India that
Mhm.
I grew up in, because obviously I grew up in a small town where I am right now.
Yeah.
This was a view into an India that I didn't know, in a way.
But was it then aspirational, or was it like,
Yeah,
oh,
not
these
not
rich
not
elitist,
aspirational in the rich elitist way, because these are not rich elitist
Yeah.
stories, but this is more like, oh, these are good morals to have as a good person.
But I mean, in a way, now it seems to be like the divide between small town and big town is like these big towns are like liberal, elitist, metropolises where anything goes. And, we are the true blue values of what it has shifted a little bit. Where if you're looking at it from a distance,
Yeah.
then maybe it's something that you say, oh, we could all live together and all of these people are good people too.
I think what sets like places like Delhi and Bombay apart is that when you're in a big city like that, you don't really like the focus is so much on survival, especially if you're like from the lower income
Yeah.
classes, that unless you have somebody coming from the outside and like feeding you ideas on a day-to-day basis, you are so consumed by the need to survive that you don't have time to like sit around thinking like this one is a Muslim, this
Yeah.
one is a Hindu, this one is a like Christian. Like it really does like like what you see in Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman, that little basti where like everyone, there's like a Christian, there's a Musalman, there's a Hindu, like all of them are like together. That really is a very Bombay thing. Like what Aziz Mirza was writing, like that was like, and there are still pockets in Bombay where like you'll see that, you will see that kind of neighborhood and you'll see that kind of ethos. It's just that it's vanishing more and more because, well, you know why it's vanishing more and more.
Yeah. Because, like so many times I hear like about like Muslims not being able to live together even in the same complex or in the same building, or vegetarians with non-vegetarians, and all of these things that I hear constantly in India happening is like, yeah, wasn't that happening then? Like these things just didn't exist. Like people just used to live together, or is it just like an image
think
that
the-
we've created?
I think the difference is that back then people felt ashamed if you like pointed that out to them. Like if you said that, like there's this really
There was a sort of pride
there's
in
this-
declaring that your nation is a secular state. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then obviously there are historical events in the course of the history of this nation that triggered, animosity and Islamophobic vibes, and on obviously, violent events that have
So-
happened, and that's sort of the markers of, it's okay to be against them because they are, the us versus them debate sparked from that. But in the course of the nation building, when we grew up, I think it was more normal to be secular than to be not.
So I remember there's this one particular story, like just as an example, when the 92 blasts happened in Bombay, and there were like there was a lot of anti-Muslim
Yeah.
sentiment, and Shashi Kapoor, like all the stars in Bombay obviously live in, like most of the stars live in apartments rather than in bungalows, and Shashi Kapoor had an apartment in like a very fancy apartment building. And a bunch of people in the apartment building were like, there's this one particular Muslim family and they should leave. They were just like, like, it's not safe to have a Muslim family in this apartment building, blah, 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 like all that kind of stuff. And Shashi Kapoor basically showed up and said, how fucking dare you? You can't talk like that about people who are our neighbors. Like, he just like basically just laid into them. And the people who proposed it were actually ashamed and were just like, I'm sorry, like, we didn't mean to do that. Like, I don't know what came into us. And like, it was never brought up again. And like, the Muslim family continued to live there and they weren't evicted or anything. The difference between 1992 and 2024 to me is that nobody would say anything to those people. And if they did, then they would be the ones who would be shamed rather than the people who, proposed it in the first place. Like, that's the difference that I've seen in the last 30 years.
I'm just thinking about this because there was this clip going viral, or I saw it, of Kareena Kapoor talking about her favorite foods. And the Kapoors are notorious foodies, right? Like, they love food and
not
stuff
only
like that.
food, but non-vegetarian meat eaters. Yeah, that's a
exactly. Thing. And the only thing she mentioned was like, I love rajma chawal and I love my dal. Dal chawal is the best. And it just stuck to me because I've heard this theory so many times, like dal chawal is the best. And I was like, we're at this point where people cannot even say that they love a kebab or something like that. Right? That's where we're at, right? And they know, I mean, we all know what they're doing, right? They don't want to get the hate, so they're just getting, I mean, I know the restaurants Kareena Kapoor goes to in London. They're not veg restaurants, but it's just like the evolution. When you go back to a movie like Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman, it really is such a stark contrast in so many different ways of where we are now and where we were then. It just really
I also have another theory that I wrote down while I was watching this, and that is because of the aesthetic of another director, which is so much in contrast with how Aziz Mirza comes up with scenes. Is Aziz Mirza is the anti Sanjay Leela Bhansali, because like SLB is so much known for its aesthetic, right? Everything is sterile, like clean as on his sets, and everything is like brand spanking new, and also SLB is, at least back in the day, was known for romance, and the scenes between the spark between these two lovely characters is introduced and written into his scenes, be it in Khamoshi or in Hum Dil De Chuke Sanam. Those are the two that I can remember as far as now. But and contrast to that, here the world is so inauthentic. It's so much on a film set that you can tell that it's on a film set, and it's dirty. It's made to look like a nukkar or a mohalla, and the romance here is depicted through the commentary of single uncles in the mohalla here. But it's such a charming scene where they all go to Jay, Nana Patekar's character, to give the commentary of what will happen next. And Nana, I've written down the dialogue. It's such a lovely, lovely scene just before Laveria, right? Jay says, "Chamure, अब खोली नंबर 5 का दरवाजा खुलेगा, लड़की सुखा तौलिया सुखाने के बहाने बाहर आएगी, रॉक्सी में दिल दिया दर्द लिया." He's reading the newspaper. अब हीरो स्टाइल मारेगा, सबसे नजर बचा के अपने लैला को इशारा करेगा. अब लड़की शर्मा कर लकड़ी पे तबला बजाएगी दिनक दिन दा. दुनिया के रस्मो रिवाज तोड़ के लड़की लड़के की तरफ उड़ता हुआ चुम्मा फेंकेगी, वो अजरुद्दीन की तरह कैच करेगा. Oh, what a scene! What a scene! I freaking love that scene. I have to rewind and write it down. It is as epic as एक लड़की और एक लड़का दोस्त नहीं हो सकते.
The funny character that Nana Patekar is playing, right? Because he seems like a homeless dude most of
Why
the
is he wearing a
time.
trench coat in Mumbai?
But, he's wearing a chancellor hat, like a cricket hat probably, and then he manages to still get people around him. Like, people are listening to him. He's like a moral leader, to the point where I think we want to talk a little bit about the climax of the movie too, right? Where
that's definitely written by
like
Shahrukh. So I think the climax, like, he had to be bloody, he had to run, he had to be stabbed.
Oh yeah. The final fight. You mean the
Yeah.
final fight? Yeah, but I also mean the whole setup of like he gets blamed for
The vet.
the bridge collapsing, and they kind of the rich people are trying to like it's all a bit absurd. Like when you think about it,
Terrorists.
like just because this guy got a promotion, now they're very angry about him.
And he appears on
But
TV.
yeah, and then the whole idea that he's told that these people that that actually died in the crash are the terrorists. And yeah, it's Nana Patekar again leading the charge, and like making
It's
his whole
very
Nana
Kranti
Patekar
here again.
Yeah, very much, right? So yeah, I just wanted to see what you guys kind of thought of the whole setup.
Yeah, it's Nana Patekar doing what he does best, I guess. That scene is going to work at the cinema. Everybody is going to Maru City at that particular monologue, which he has had. Like the movie is bookended by each chapter is by Nana Patekar giving a commentary of what's going to happen next or whatever. And yeah, he's doing what he's been hired for, in this movie.
Yeah. It does finish a bit abruptly. I feel I was left with a few questions like, what is Raju going to do now? Like, does he not have a job?
What
like,
is Amrita going to do now?
Be a bit
Not you, Amrita. What Amrita saying?
Yeah.
It was funny that they had the palette scene here as well in the climax.
Yes, the original palette.
Well, I'll probably try to get a clip and post on Twitter. Like people probably have forgotten about this palette. And it was funny that you said like Jay, like all of these single uncles. I don't know where are their families. You never get to see. And they ask Jay if he had had a love story in his past, and he says, yes, I used to love somebody, her name was Madhumati. And this other guy comes and like, पहले तो तूने बंदनी कहा था, and both are like Bimal Roy movies. Yeah, it was funny.
What about you, Amrita? What did you think of the ending of the movie?
I mean, it was cute, and I'm really glad that they didn't try and do something artistic and make it like a sad ending.
Yeah.
And like Juhi and Shahrukh got their happy ending after all. And also like Amrita like sacrificing her love for Shahrukh and saying that, and then Shahrukh being like, she doesn't deserve, like, I don't deserve her. Like, she deserves better than me. And I was just like, oh, that's so cute.
Good people. We used to be a nation.
What happened to us? We used to be a nation. That meme.
Also, I love it's not the dar jacket, but it's similar to the dar jacket Shahrukh is wearing at the end of the climax. Yeah, it's the start of bloody Shahrukh too. But it's funny because the blood is too thin, so when he's in the barish, all the blood just wipes away. He has no scars, so it's kind of funny.
What do you guys think of Aziz Mirza as a director?
I mean, I think it's like very like Rishikesh Mukherjee kind of filmmaking, right? Like this could be a play. I just think, I think he's like that kind of filmmaker. Like probably in that era, he was making these kind of small time stories, and Aziz Mirza made these kind of small time stories. I think it's very competent, very nice, but it's also not
cinematic.
It's not loud. It's not gonna make like it's not gonna make like a big like a box office impression or stuff like that. I just think it's just like kind of a bygone era. I just don't see how this can be made anymore.
Even the things that he's tried to say with this and with Phir Bhi Dil and Hindustani, most of all, those two movies stand out as movies that cannot be made now, in a way.
Funnily, I watched Raju Ban Gaya Gentleman and Amrita because you recommended me Alistair MacLean books.
Yes, yeah.
So one of those was Guns of Navarone, right? Yeah. And I ended up watching Guns of Navarone the other day. I'd never seen it. My dad loved that movie, so he'd been talking about it all the time. And again, my dad has really good taste in movies, by the way. But so I ended up watching it because it was on the list of the books that you mentioned. And again, I was watching it and I was like, this kind of movie cannot get made anymore, right? Like it's just like a straight narrative, and like all of these big actors together, and they have like small role, big role, and it's not like an ego problem. And it's the same thing here. Like it's like I cannot comprehend how, like, Guns of Navarone now is the Avengers, right? Like that's what we were thinking of. And the scale, the massiveness, the loudness of it is something that we have to do now to get people into the theater. And I think a movie like, because people keep saying this, like, oh, Shahrukh should make, movies like he used to in Kabhi Haan Kabhi Na or Yes Boss, or he should make that Vishal Bhardwaj movie with Tabu. But I just don't think the economics of it can work. What are you going to do with it? Release it on Netflix? Is that the plan? I don't know.
Yeah, even if you release it on Netflix, just because he's Shah Rukh Khan, the way that would play is also different than, say, like, just releasing a Netflix movie with, say, Ranveer or Varun Dhawan or something like that. It's just what it is. Like, like sometimes the art wins over, sometimes the business wins over, and unfortunately for Shah Rukh, and also, like, I don't know if when people say that, and actually I'm kind of really happy that Shah Rukh is no longer letting other people into his brain, because there was that 5-year period where it was very clear that he was spooked and like he was letting other people's voices into his head. But when people say that, like, there's just no way that you can make this movie even from a aesthetics point of view. Like, this is not the sensibility of who we are as a people anymore. Not even as a nation, but like as a people, like, that watch Hindi films anywhere. Like, this is the kind of innocence that we don't have anymore. Like, nobody, if you make this movie in 2024 and like, the bad guys all got sent to prison and like Amrita Singh like confesses everything in court, people would mock it out of like the theaters, because people would be like, that never happens, because that never happens anymore. You know what I mean? Like, this is, and we as a people don't believe that justice will win, or that true love will triumph, or all those things. Like, we've been educated out of that over the past 30 years. So I don't know how you're going to make this movie.
Yeah. Any final words, Sujoy? Anything else you wanted to discuss?
So many notes about this movie, guys. I'm so sorry. The first time Shah Rukh goes for that interview at Amrita Singh's firm, and he like knocks them out of the park. Like, he schools them basically on engineering, and then this guy has to check in his computer. He's basically just writing a Unix command to see the folder structure. He's like, yes, the calculations are right, and he gets the job instantly.
He's like, computer kya keh raha hai? That's the line.
And then followed by the first day on his job. He schools Amrita Singh this time, and then Anjan Saxena, he sort of scolds him like, तुमने मैम साहब के सामने सब कुछ कह दिया है, ये सब नहीं करना चाहिए था. And whenever like she gets angry, and Saxena is like, he's only diploma holder, he's not even a true engineer. What the hell is going on? And then followed by him getting.
But can I just also say about that, like, I was also thinking how far the middle class has come, where they now do want gyms, they do want parks and swimming pools, where back in the day, yes, they maybe just needed facilities.
Just want the toilet. And then Shah Rukh gets promoted, right? Raju gets promoted, and then Saxena he's been working at this firm for so long, and he's just come in and swooped under his feet and got this private chamber, his office cabin, and he's like complaining about chair dekha and all that, and but he complains about Shah Rukh, Raju just coming out of nowhere and succeeding his position before he could even have that go, and then he goes back to fantasizing about the cabin itself and a chote computer, lal telephone, paperweight, kitna acha hai. Like, it seems like that Aziz Mirza like excels in, and like slice of life characters. By the way, people who are just listening to this podcast, Amrita, we are recording on video, and Amrita has been embracing the darkness for a while. She's become Batman for us on this. She sat in a dark room, so I can only hear her.
Sometimes you see a
Yeah.
teeth flash.
Yes.
She's Renuka Shahane here. Another bit of the Aziz Mirza flashes in this movie is when you get the Mohalla song, you get a Qawwali section as well in a song, because the Muslim guy representation has to be presented, and then
Yeah, he's not wearing the topi for
Yeah.
nothing, Sujoy.
and shout out to Neeraj Vora for wearing the skimpiest banyan of all with his lungi. And like
Amazing.
obviously we talked about the other ancillary characters that are in the Mohalla, but later in the movie we just get new characters out of nowhere, like the villain lair where they have to cheers Ajit Bachchani for successfully demolishing the bridge, and you get Arun Bali out of nowhere, right? You get Achyut Poddar for one scene where he's being gifted
For one scene,
prostitutes.
he's playing a creep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like it when he
No,
does
he's
that.
just-
I don't
he
like
has-
him. I just want him to be the
Yeah,
crying father.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Amrita, any final notes?
Just that it's a very cute film, and if you are a Juhi fan, then you should
Mhm.
definitely watch this. You will be very
And
happy.
watch it for the original Palat scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very sweet movie, and I think it's kind of also a timeless movie. I think whenever you watch it, you'll have a
Yeah.
good time. It has kind of good morals and like a good heart and stuff like that. But it's also not a loud movie that you need to
Well, Nana Patekar
it's like
is
really
loud.
like one of those. Yeah, he's very, very loud. But it's like one of those rainy afternoon kind of movies. You just put it on and enjoy it, and I think you'll have a good time. So yeah, it's on Prime. That's how I saw it.
It's got
And
a
it's got a
really,
really,
good
really
print,
good
yeah.
Yeah, best print I've seen, and I'm really impressed with the remasters we have on Prime lately. So yeah. Okay, that's it for this episode. Amrita, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at AmritaIQ.
Sujoy?
I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter at un93k, and you can follow Khandaan Podcast on all our socials at Khandaan Podcast.
I'm at Asim Bernie. Drop us an email at youpodcasting@gmail.com. And if you are on Patreon, you'll be able to listen to our Monkey Man review, and I think Goat Live too. So join up, support our work. Thank you for listening.
Khandaan Podcast और एक्टिंग
Girl, you're my chum,